They see a 23-year-old tech guy from Argentina with your calm composure, and they're like fighting.
Fighting. Yeah. I never had a feeling of nationalism, not for Argentina, not for Israel, not now for Spain. I don't believe in violence as a way of getting or achieve things. And then eventually I was called to go to the army. It was mandatory. I am suddenly handling a weapon that I take home. My mom had cancer. Because my mom was Jewish, we went all the family together to Israel so she can there have a better treatment. We didn't know the language at all. Zero. Alphabet again at the age of 20 something is weird. You can't read even which street I am. I was suddenly not able to even manage a stressful moment. I was not able to fall asleep. My rest was not good. I was alert all the time. And then I realized I was in general not having fun from anything. Even if I was doing something fun, I was worried. I was just thinking about what can happen or what happened already. Sometimes you are not resilient, but the situation doesn't allow you to choose, right? My mom passed away. I moved to a different country with where my sister was living. And after a couple of years, she also gets the diagnosis that she has cancer.
Oh, fuck.
My brain was not able to absorb any big event anymore. And then I decided to go to therapy. Yeah. When you are the target, it doesn't matter anymore if it's about politics or nationalism or natural resources. It's you just want to live. And the same for your friends. It doesn't matter if it's a real enemy or it's just someone in the same situation as you on the other side of the line, also trying to just survive.
They see a 23-year-old tech guy from Argentina with your calm composure, and they're like fighting.
Fighting. Yeah. I never had a feeling of nationalism, not for Argentina, not for Israel, not now for Spain. I don't believe in violence as a way of getting or achieve things. And then eventually I was called to go to the army. It was mandatory. I am suddenly handling a weapon that I take home. My mom had cancer. Because my mom was Jewish, we went all the family together to Israel so she can there have a better treatment. We didn't know the language at all. Zero. Alphabet again at the age of 20 something is weird. You can't read even which street I am. I was suddenly not able to even manage a stressful moment. I was not able to fall asleep. My rest was not good. I was alert all the time. And then I realized I was in general not having fun from anything. Even if I was doing something fun, I was worried. I was just thinking about what can happen or what happened already. Sometimes you are not resilient, but the situation doesn't allow you to choose, right? My mom passed away. I moved to a different country with where my sister was living. And after a couple of years, she also gets the diagnosis that she has cancer.
Oh, fuck.
My brain was not able to absorb any big event anymore. And then I decided to go to therapy. Yeah. When you are the target, it doesn't matter anymore if it's about politics or nationalism or natural resources. It's you just want to live. And the same for your friends. It doesn't matter if it's a real enemy or it's just someone in the same situation as you on the other side of the line, also trying to just survive.
Martin and I don't go back too many years, but somehow, without realizing, he did everything necessary to spark my curiosity. A stoic and very sweet person with at times a little bit of heaviness in his eyes. Add to that a little gossipy, well-intentioned rumor that he's actually way more badass than what you would expect from a corporate product manager, a white-collar worker. Combine all that, and I had some questions to do. Born in Argentina, at times of extreme political instability, he moved to Israel. He served the Israeli Defense Forces and actually lived to experience the loss of two very close relatives. His story is full of trauma, PTSD, and real struggle that went honestly beyond my imagination. But somehow Martin sits in front of me with a smile and shares his story kindly, politely, with his typical stoic and calm energy. Martin now is choosing simple things, living somewhere outside of Barcelona with his best friend, who also happens to be his partner, playing with their dogs, cooking, gaming. Ultimately, a simple life. A life that, especially nowadays, uh, people would call, I don't know, boring, unexciting. But for Martin, after his story, that must be peace. The peace that he was deprived of for more than a decade of his life. A friend recently told me that God doesn't give you more than what you can handle. But Martin sat in front of me and shared his story with a smile. Because he handled, he overcame, and he moved on. So, without further ado, this is Martin Fuentes, and this is his second act. I propose that we start, if you want. Who are you?
Who am I? I'm Martín Fuentes, born in Argentina. 1 year away of being half of my life outside Argentina, in Israel and Barcelona, where I am. Now I still live in Spain, but now in the north of Spain, the Basque Country. I am a group product manager. I have always worked in the IT world since when I started, more or less around when I was 16, 17 years old. Before that, I wanted to be a pilot and
Okay.
an paleontologist. But then I discarded both and said my third option is IT and computers. And I said, "Right, that sounds like more feasible and reasonable for me."
Okay. Okay. You told me you have a partner, you're married, you have a family. I don't know these details.
Yeah. So I'm married. My family is my partner, me, a cat, and a dog.
And
We don't have kids and we don't plan to have them.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm actually very curious about Argentina. You got born in Argentina in the 80s. Like, can you tell me a little bit more? I want to just picture
Yeah.
the environment.
Cool. Yeah. So I was born in Cordoba.
Mm-hmm.
That's a city. So the province of Cordoba is sit exactly in the middle of Argentina. So in the center,
Mm-hmm.
north east, north south east west. The center of Argentina lands somewhere in the province of Cordoba. I was born in a rather little town, maybe having like 10K, 15K population. I don't remember exactly. I lived there up until I was like 6, maybe years old. And then we moved to the city, still in the province of Cordoba, but now in the city of Cordoba as well, so in the capital. And so I have always been in the countryside, let's say, of Argentina. So I never lived in Buenos Aires, although Cordoba is the second biggest city of Argentina. Province of Argentina after Buenos Aires. And so I did there the elementary school, then high school. I started was system engineering in the university. I did like a couple of years, maybe 2.5, and then because of family reasons, I left Argentina.
At what age?
I was 23 when I left
Okay.
Argentina. Yeah,
How do you remember Argentina? Because as far as I'm concerned, you haven't lived there since then, right?
true. Yeah, I never came back to live. I actually only came back 3 times for visit in these 21, 22 years. So I remember I had to confess that because this bias a bit my answer. I have no feelings of nationalism. So okay, so for me it's a coincidence that I was born in Argentina, or anywhere else. I mean, so I had very nice memories because I spent there a big part of my life, my childhood, younghood, and I do still have some friends that I have contact with them, family, extended family, not direct family. So I have nice and sweet memories. Some of them I'm also part of the things that happen in my family. happened there in Argentina, which not all of them are happy memories, let's say. But I do feel so. If someone asks me where I am from or who or from which country I feel from, I say, of course, Argentina, even though I spent just half of my life there, because it was probably the first years of my life. And then this is more like the culture that I learn and the habits and how to live and all that. It's actually from Argentina. And then on the other side, I also remember the parts that make me not want to come back to live, at least there. The insecurity, the economic situation, politics situation, it's always unstable, at least. That's quite very common in South America, but Argentina, it was like that. So mainly I try to keep it as a nice memories, my childhood, my past, where I born, where I have a lot of people that I love. That's more or less.
So I forgot to ask you some further demographics. Do you have siblings?
I do, yeah. So we have been in total for. I have a half brother from one of my parents. It's weird to say half brother. I have one brother that is only from one of my parents, and then another two from my same parents. I am the smallest from all of them, nevertheless. And then my brother is the next one. He lives in Barcelona. My sister, she passed away 4 years ago, and then another brother who lives in Argentina, and he's the oldest one, let's say.
I was curious, culturally speaking, although you're not the stereotype of a South American heated, I don't know, that's the stereotype I have in my mind, like similar to Greeks, like heated, passionate, blah, blah, blah. But would you notice any differences culturally between Spanish people and Argentinians?
Yeah, it's true. I also kind of think that I am not the regular typical Latin person. No, I am kind of more relaxed, let's say. Not that they're nervous, but it's true what you say. They're just like more active and kind of passionate. I guess it probably relates a lot on the how did you grow and the culture that you were growth on. Where is your family coming from before you? And I guess that's probably why. I honestly don't know one specific reason why. At the end, we're all different. So even though I'm from Latin America, I have never behaved too much as the typical Latins that you see other. I don't know why, to be honest. I think I'm just a calm person.
In comparison to the Spanish people, have you noticed any cultural difference? I'm actually curious because there are a lot of South American people in Portugal, in Spain, and I was wondering how do they experience the difference in culture?
No, of course it's there are differences and some of them are more important, others less, or some of them are more noticeable, let's say. Comparing Spain with most of the countries in South America, the ones at least that are more southern in South America. As you get closer to the Central America, so this is where they feel much more Latin, as you were saying, like all the Caribbean part of South America, or even the north of South America, they are kind of a bit different. But when it comes to, for example, Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay, Brazil, they behave much similar to Spain and Portugal. So even inside Spain, you have many different peoples and behaviors because they come also from different communities and but the main differences probably are related to so the way of living here in Europe is much I want to say easy or easier. It's not necessarily the best way to describe it. But of course, there are challenges and problems that you face when you live and when you are a South American related to economy and access to certain things from the first world, the opportunities and so on. That probably in some aspects, the European communities are more mature in certain aspects, whether in South America they are just not yet. Culturally speaking, I don't think that I found like very, 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 very big differences. I guess that you more or less touch on that. I do remember people, or in general in South America, being warmer, like closer. It happens to me a lot of times that when I meet new people, I directly go and hug, and that's less usual here in Europe, for example. So probably this is the things that are more important, and the rest. I think the differences that you can find are differences that you can also find within Spain here. So, for example, if you talk with people from the Canary Island and then with Basques, they are going to be completely different.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the hugging part, I also experience it because it's very prominent in the Mediterranean culture, not just the Mediterranean, the Greek culture. So I think it has to do more with the south, not necessarily with Spain.
Maybe.
You need to tell me, but I think if you go southern, more southern towards Spain and Italy, people actually are more touchy-feely between them.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that's true. As you go southern, people are more exactly.
I have heard, seen on videos, and read about the big political and economical things that happened in Argentina in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, like, if you could tell with me, how was it to live in Argentina from that aspect during these years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually very curious about that. Argentina has been the center of attention in politics in lots of cases within those 2 decades.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Actually true. So one thing that I actually thought to mention, but I didn't, when I was born in 1981, which was still a period when Argentina was under the military regime.
Mm.
Now I lost the word. The dictatorship. Okay.
Mm.
So the dictatorship started somewhere in the 70s, and it lasted until 82, when the war between Argentina and the UK because of the Falkland Island ended. So in 82, Argentina started a democracy again. Of course, that was big news around the world. So a few months later, the first democratic elections came after the dictatorship. And I already have some memories from mid 80s, say when I was 4 or 5 years old, six maybe, that every mandate was different up until somewhere late in the 90s, because then we have the dictatorship, then the first democratic election, they didn't finish actually all the period, so there was earlier elections, and then was the first time that president was elected twice, so for 2 seasons. So Argentina was going through the first time of this kind of government during like 15 years, which was from after the dictatorship until end of the 90s or mid 90s. And because it's so Argentina, Brazil, Chile, they are kind of big economies within South America. Usually things that happen there will kind of resonate, and they go around the world. And usually Argentina is in the news not because of very happy reasons in most of the cases. Also, there's a lot of problems with of course, politics. The country goes up and down. Almost after every 2 or 3 years, there is a crisis and things go south.
Tell me about it. I'm a Greek person.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then we export the soccer players that become famous every now and then, and they also get Argentina to the news often.
I might say something extremely ignorant, but I don't remember exactly the date. But when was it that Argentina went like massively bankrupt?
It was 2003.
2003. You were in Argentina back then, right?
Yeah, I was in Argentina.
How was it? What did you experience back then?
It was crazy. So, a bit of background. Argentina had a law enforcing the local peso to be 1 to 1 equal dollar. That was held based on making private most of the national companies and resources and industries and all that. At some point, that was not feasible anymore, so it was impossible to keep the value of the peso equal to the dollar. And so at that time, it was the same. You were going to the bank to open an account, and they were just asking you, do you want it in peso or in dollar? Your savings could be in peso or dollar. You can kind of choose, but no one really cared because it was the same value. So what happened was that when that conversion rate was not possible anymore, the inflation started, and the Argentinian peso started to lose value. And a lot of people saw that this will create a big problem on every bank, so they will not have enough money to support the conversion. So people started to withdraw their money, or they wanted to withdraw their money. They wanted to convert, and the banks didn't have it. It was impossible for them to just be able to give the money to everyone that wants to pull it. So all the banks closed. In Spanish, it's called the corralito. You were not able to pull money from the machines. You were not able to go and even pay with debit everything you want. So there were thresholds and limits to how money can you spend, how much money can you withdraw, how much money you can pay with debit cards. So even if you have money, it was just virtual. It was impossible to go and take it. Of course, people just went mad. They went to the street. It was actually quite violent, I would say. And the president resigned.
How was it in your household? How did you and your family experience that?
So my brother, for example, was very unlucky because he has all his savings in the local Argentinian peso, which from one day to the other lose tenths of the value. So if you had something that in your mind was equivalent to X amount of dollars, for example, if you were planning to go abroad and do a master, or if you wanted to just to support yourself on looking for a job out there, whatever. So you just don't have it anymore. You have just a tenth of the value that you thought. So he was impacted very badly. And then on the other side, it was more about the toil of not being able to just use your money the way you want. So we were never rich, but we never had needs. So we never had big savings or investments to say, oh, we lost like a lot of money. In general, my family was living more or less with the monthly salary of my parents and us who were also helping. And that was always enough for everything we need, but it was not too much. So kind of we have like investments out there. So the impact was not as bad, to be honest, for us, mainly because of that reason, but it was very problematic then on the other hand, because the prices of everything started to go up, especially things that were coming from abroad. So all the import goods started to just go up to the roof.
Okay. So this is around 2003, 2005, somewhere there, right?
Yeah.
Just for me to create a timeline, at what point you leave Argentina?
It was more or less around that time. So
Okay.
I left Argentina in 2003, not because of that reason. It was because my mom was sick, and we had the opportunity to go to Israel so he can have like a better medical treatment. That was the reason why we left. And it was actually a problem for us because our money was in the local peso, and that was money that we wanted to use outside. And suddenly it had.
So I have a lot of questions on that. Argentina did at first. If you feel comfortable to share what was the sickness, what happened, but also why Israel, Argentina didn't have public health care. It wasn't good. Did she need some special operation?
Okay.
Yeah, a
No,
lot.
no
Sorry.
worries. I'm all fine. So my mom had cancer. Argentina has a public health system. It's free and universal. So everyone that it's in Argentina, either if you're an Argentinian, live there, tourist, or you're just a foreign working there, whatever. So everyone has access to the public health system. The quality of the doctors is very good, so they're very prepared. But of course, as many other South American or third world countries, they don't have the infrastructures as good as other countries, like for example Europe or North America. So we saw as the treatment was progressing that the outcomes were not as expected, or the improvements were not at the level as they would be. And at that time, because my mom was Jewish, there is a a law in the Israel state that says that every Jewish that lives around the world has the right to live in the country of Israel. So they help Jewish that want to go to live in Israel. We knew already that the Israeli health system is way better than Argentinian. We had the opportunity, and because the Israeli state supports you, it means that they help you with the plane tickets. They help you also for your needs in the first months until you can get a job or learn the language. So we took that option and we went all the family together to Israel so she can there have a better treatment. Mainly because we saw that the progress was not in the good direction in Argentina. So it's good, but sometimes you just need to wait for a lot of time. The medicine that should arrive now, it's not. So you need to wait for a week or two or a month. So it was not reliable at the level that she needed, let's say. And we had the expectation that in Israel it will be better. And that's what we left.
I'm a little surprised, not surprised by what you tell me, because this is something that my family would do. But this is extreme hustling from the whole family, like moving from Argentina to Israel. That must have been like from an operational standpoint, very big, but also quite a cultural shock for all of you.
Yeah.
How was it? Like, if you could give me details, I'm genuinely curious about that.
Sure. It was. I can tell you. So it was one of these experiences that doesn't happen to everyone. About the cultural shock, that was probably a bit less of a problem as others because all my family from my mom's side, they are Jewish. From my dad's side, they're Catholics. But I already lived the ceremonies, the celebrations, so I already knew how the Jewish culture is and how not necessarily the Jewish people, because as any other culture or country, people are just different. You go to a different city and people are just different. But I already knew a lot from the cultural part. But still, when we arrived, the logistics were true a bit complicated. My brother and the brother who's next to me in age, we went first because we wanted to get all the things sorted out, all the paperwork. For then, whenever my mom comes, she can go directly to the doctor. There was a lot of paperwork to do, and also find a house, rent a house, be ready so she can arrive to a house, not like this. We were in a kind of public building where people just arrive and spend the first months and then you can rent something. It's all good and very nice people, but it's usually very small. We were going to be 4 or 5, so we had to find something bigger. And then, as I was saying, all the paperwork, already be in touch with doctors so they are aware of the situation. So when she arrives, she can directly go to some treatment. That was one part. The other part was we didn't know the language at all. Zero. So feeling an analphabet again at the age of 20 something is weird. I have to confess. You can't read even which street I am. I can't read it. I go to the day after we arrived, my brother and I went to the supermarket and many things that they are just similar, like yogurts. You have 15 different types of yogurts, right? If it's Greek or not, and with sugar, without sugar, you just don't know. All of them, they're just yogurts with some different labels. And so sometimes we just smell things to know what they are and what not. And then don't matter as much as, so that was half fun, half crazy, not knowing what you're doing. Thankfully enough, there were a lot of South American people in the same place that they were very, very helpful. So they really offered. That was just the day after we arrived. But as we started knowing people, everything got easier because people just help you. And that's really nice. Other things that were weird, as much as you can know the Jewish culture, of course, it's not the same how people live that in Israel. Okay, so everything, of course, is much bigger, and then you also meet people. You think that Jews are all more or less. There is one kind of Jewish community, but it's not true. So there are like different flavors, let's call it, and there are a lot of differences in between. And yeah, I would say that those are probably the well, at least the impact that you get when you arrive, but because later you just get used. My brother and I, so My mom and my dad, they arrived. She started with all the treatments. My brother and I started to learning the language. And then we just started working. So you get, at some point, you just make yourself part of the day to day, and all these differences start to normalize. You get used to everything.
What is the vibe in the family from that move? I mean, you told me the two boys went there. Like, were you in a mission to help? To like, was it fun for the whole family? I'm trying to be a little bit into the story.
No, no, I don't want, I can't say that it was fun. So all the last years in Argentina were already not fun and happy for
Mhm.
anyone because of all the situation, the economic situation. So it was already a very chaotic. Altogether, we had this situation with my mom. She was
Mhm.
already sick. It was a few years before that, when I was around 15. So when I left Argentina, I was 23. 7 years before that, we moved from Cordoba to a different province. And that was the first time that we as a family split it, because my middle brother and sister, they stayed in Cordoba because they were already in the university. And now suddenly my brother and I were leaving Argentina. So we are separating now in three pieces instead of two. And we are just now going like 20,000 kilometers away to a different continent. We were not used to be that separate in my family. We are all very close to each other. The whole reason why we left and moved to Israel was not happy at all.
Mm.
It's different when you have a goal, an objective, and you plan for something, you do it. It can be tough, but it's a sequence of steps that you plan for them and you prepare for them. Now it was, so we had to make a decision, and we really didn't know what is going to happen or how it's going to happen. So it was not fun. Then for being there, my brother and me, we had kind of a lot of pressure, not because my parents were pressuring, but the situation was that way, that we had to make all this paperwork and find the house and everything fast, because again, it was everything because some health issues. So you need to hurry up. So it was not fun. Then when somehow, whenever you start the day to day, you're already settled down. She was already with the doctors. We were already kind of working. We more or less were able to communicate. Some of us more, some of us
Mhm.
less. But depending on what we are doing. But the problem itself, my mom's health issues were kind of the center of
Mhm.
everything that was happening while we were in Israel.
Yeah.
And
And
then, sorry,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, no, please.
Then eventually I was called to go to the army. It
Mhm.
was mandatory. I couldn't choose. I knew that it was going to happen.
How did that happen? So, wait, I really want to understand it. I have unknowns here. You go to Israel and you are called to go to the army as a citizen of. So, you became a citizen of Israel and they were like, oh, by the way, everyone needs to do that and you haven't done it.
What is
How did that happen? Like, because you are Argentinian and you moved there for a very specific reason? Or
Yeah.
did you request it?
No. So when I was saying that the Israeli state has this law that says that the Israeli state will support Jews that wants to live in Israel. This means that they will help you with all the things that I mentioned, with the flight tickets, blah blah. But you get the citizenship as well. So
Mhm.
you truly become an Israeli citizen,
Okay.
all the purposes. So you get the rights of this
Mhm.
being a new immigrant coming to Israel, but of course you also have the obligations of an Israeli citizen. And I am male. I had to go to the army. I was still kind of lucky because I was already 23 years old when I moved to Israel. When I was called to the army, I was already 24. So instead of the 3 years that every male does in Israel, I only did 6 months.
Okay. Okay. We have obligatory army in Greece as well. I think it's the regions thing. We like fighting each other from time to time, but 3 years is a lot. So you are called to the army. I guess your brother as well.
No, because he was already, if I was 23, he was 27. He was already in an exception because of age. So he
Oh,
didn't.
okay, okay. Are they paying you when you're in the army? So was there income in the house?
Yes, you get paid while you're in the army. So before the army, I was already working and
Hmm.
I had actually quite a nice job. Then So when I was called and I had my age, my date for going in, I had to resign from my job, and then I started having like a soldier salary, very very little. It's
Peanuts.
all for young people that are 18, 19 years old that they still live with the parents, but they don't support the parents, let's say, and they will get. Let's imagine that if it something of today's money here in Europe, it would be maybe 100, 150 euros.
Mhm.
Then you don't pay for public transportation, so you have a lot of benefits because of being a soldier. But then you just have very little money for everything else, let's say. That was during the 6 months that I was in the service. Then I came back to the same company where I was before the army. And so in Israel, after you do your service, every year you go to the reserve, to the active reserve. Depending on your role, it can be just a few days or a month every year. And that's different because then you get the same salary as you have. So when you go to the reserve, let's say a month, you will get your same average salary as you had in your current role. So the only lower is when you are in the actual service.
Okay. So you stayed 6 months in the army.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Did you have any experience? Does Argentina have some obligatory service?
No, it was so the people that were born in the 76
Mm-hmm.
were the last ones that
Mm.
had the obligatory military service.
Okay.
And I
So
was
you have
81, so it was not obligatory anymore.
no idea, and you land in the most hardcore army, one of the most hardcore armies in the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to the long story short, sometime before you actually need to go, you go through a series of examination, the physical, psychological, whatever, and depending on the score that you get, it's the type of role that you will have in the army later. And so I was in an artillery unit for 6 months. So it was a fighting unit. It was just around Israel with my unit. Yeah. So yeah, you have the score that more or less tells what options you have. And then that more or less kind of guides the type of activities that we will do.
So they passed 23-year-old Martin from exams, and they see a tech guy from Argentina with your calm composure, and they're like fighting.
Fighting. Yeah.
How did that come?
I don't do I don't prepare the exams. No, I think I have no idea why. No, it's I think so. In general, if you don't have any kind of physical limitation or disability or mental situation, you're usually good to go. Of course, there is the need of populate the fighting units as well. So if you're capable to do it, I guess that's a priority. But that was tough. So as you were saying, I'm a very pacific person, calm. Just the idea of being in the army was very, very weird for me, even if I knew that it's going to happen eventually because of when we decided to go to Israel. But yeah, I can say that I also learn things, not only things that are kind of tangible, but I matured, I grew. So of course you go through situations that you wouldn't experience right in any other environment, and that makes you grow. So I kind of learned how to manage myself in other situations, like more critical situations, more dangerous situations, and to deal with that. How do you actually deal with the violence that happens around you if you are not that kind of person that can absorb that more naturally?
Can you tell me a few stories that like stuck and you remember?
Let me think for a few seconds, because most probably there are some of them that I can't.
Most
Yeah,
probably?
that I can't.
Okay.
But yeah,
From
yeah.
confidentiality. Yeah, okay.
So the first time that I had a weapon in my hands, that was
Mhm.
a very, very weird feeling. Actually, I know the parts of a rifle in Hebrew, only in Hebrew.
Okay.
I don't know how to call these parts in, not even in Spanish, because in Spanish I never touched a gun or a weapon at all, and I never, of course, separated it into pieces, and so that is one thing. Experiences. So you meet with people also that are in the same situation as you. For example, I was in a group where a big part of the people were like me, like not as young as the Israeli ones that they just go after high school, that were also immigrants, that then you can kind of understand each other much better because you feel. So it was weird to be already with a grown mind in a military environment where you don't need to think too much. You're not supposed to think too much. You just need to do what they tell you to do. And that's something that it's probably easier to accept and to embrace if you're younger. So it was nice to have people around me that understood that situation, that they were in the same boat. Other experiences, um, everything of course is new, it's different. So you get to be amazed about being in places that you wouldn't just go
Like
at
what?
all.
Like?
I don't know, an extreme end in a mountain just because you're doing some type of exercise, or it's very common to go to the Dead Sea in the south of Israel, right? But being on the other side of the sea, which is not that common. So you really get to go to places that you wouldn't probably as a tourist or as a local person that just is knowing the country. And the learning as a whole, so all the training, all the sometimes you just see movies and wonder how much reality is like that, and then you actually are you're doing it, and you can say, yeah, this is true. This is how in the movies. This is no, this is just bullshit. But those are more or less the feelings. I don't think that I can tell you about a lot of specific experiences.
Could you
Uh,
describe something without revealing intelligence or I'm mostly interested about not the gossip part or the intelligence part, just the experience for you, the way you perceived it.
okay, so for me, the biggest mental exercise was to embrace and really understand that I am in the army. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that I am suddenly handling a weapon, that I take it home every time that I go home. At the beginning, it was every 2 weeks. Then, because of my mom's situation, I got a permission to go every weekend home. Which that the combination of the two situations was very stressful, and because I was the one that probably had the best level of Hebrew. So I was the one going with my mom to the doctor to translate and making sure that everyone understands each other. And suddenly I had to just not be there and just see my mom one day every 2 weeks when I was going out. So handling that situation was very stressful. Get all the paperwork done in quickly, let's say, so I can go every weekend and not just doing every 2 weeks was very stressful. And so all this, the combination of all the situation, me as I am being in this environment and carrying on weapons, knowing that hopefully not, but eventually I will be required to participate in some type of activity,
Operations.
sorry?
You mean operations?
Yes. Which I of course wouldn't choose to do because I don't believe in violence as a way of getting things or achieve things. So embracing all this was the toughest part for me, and especially because of the other thing that was going on at the same time with my mom. I made very good friends that were and are a very important part of my life. Some of them, so I had a luxury of having very good friends that they knew about my situation and they were very supportive. And while we were all together in the army, when we were out, even after that, when we all were free again, and they were very supportive, and we had very good times. But the army was just tough. Accepting that I am there and all the things that I'm doing was tough. So it's, even though I learned things, it was of course, something that I wouldn't choose to do. It's the only thing in my life that I regret to experience.
I'm actually curious, did your superiors know that you are morally opposed to being there? And if yes, how did they perceive it? How did they perceive you?
So I guess that consciously no one asks you if you're against or not, right? You're just part of it. It's mandatory. You have to be there. You have the skills and the qualities to be there. So that's the main thing. So no one will really ask you. That's a question that you don't want to know the answer in general. Okay. Then you can see people and see how they act and how they behave, and more or less you can know who is more pacific, who is not, who feels more kind of fine being there, and who doesn't. But also your superiors, they are also soldiers. That they also have a mandate, and they also have rules, and they also have things to do. And one of the things that they need to do is to make you a good soldier. So the fact that if you feel comfortable or not, it's just not part of the equation. You must do it. So no one really talks about that. And I don't want to say care, because I care is judging, and probably they care, but they can't take it into account. You need they have the obligation of make your unit work, perform as you need to perform, do your job the best way you can. So you need to be good, well trained. You need to exercise. You need to know your colleagues, the ones that are part of your team, because there is a synchronization that needs to happen. And whenever, if the situation comes that you need to act, it will be dangerous by definition, and you need to know very well each other. So you don't even need to talk too much to do whatever you need to do.
I'm trying to to get myself in your shoes, and I'm thinking that if I was in such a situation, my mind would inevitably push me or intrigue me to embrace the mission, the
Mhm.
cause, just to make it more bearable. And I'm wondering if you found ever yourself in a situation where you were like, what happened here? Like, am I getting brainwashed? Am I getting part of it?
Okay, that's interesting question. No, that was not my case, at least.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, there is one thing that do happen. So at some point, you start having a connection with the people that it's around you. Most of the people are just, you have like very good relationship. They are nice. As in any other social situation, you are at work. There are hundreds of people around you. Not everyone will be your friend. With some of them, you will have nice relationship. With others, you will not have at all. Right? It's the same. But you start creating connection with people. There is an additional thing that you are in danger with these people. So there is that already kind of creates the need of protecting each other, right? And that makes connections stronger. And that's true. So at some point, you do kind of feel that you want to protect your friends, your colleagues, the people that it's just around you. And that's true. That happens. On the other side, at least me personally, never had the feeling of being brainwashed, because again, I never had the feeling of nationalism, not for Argentina, not for Israel, not now for Spain. So I just don't really understand completely the need of, in my opinion, just born somewhere is occasional, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your parents were there at that moment in time. It can be somewhere else in the world. So I don't really feel that correlation that because I was born there, or because now I have the citizenship and I am there, I need to feel that I need to kind of defend the country or not. That. So no, that's not something that I ever felt for any country, right?
When you are in that group
For
of
your
people,
colleagues.
sorry I interrupted you, but is a little complementary to what you're saying. When you're in this group of people and you have relationships with some of them, and you don't see the big picture of it, but there is someone there that wants to kill you, and everyone tells you that this is the bad guy and wants to kill you, and actually wants to kill you, perhaps. How does that play with your mind in that situation?
There is another thing that starts playing, and it's the survival instinct. It doesn't matter. So you're right saying that probably there is someone that wants to harm you, that probably wants to kill you or your friends, the people that are next to you. At some point, when you are the target, it doesn't matter anymore if it's about politics or nationalism or because of natural resources. It's you just want to live and be alive and go out alive, and you expect the same for your friends that are there. What I'm trying to say is that at the end, when you are in that situation and when there is real risk and real danger, the main thing that plays actually is your survival instinct. You just want to live. It doesn't matter if it's a real enemy or it's just someone that doesn't hate you, but just because of probably is in the same situation as you are, but just on the other side of the line, it's also trying to just survive.
Have you been in such situations where you felt danger?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I shouldn't ask more about that. Okay, let's move on. So, what is happening at home? Like you got released from the army and you continued with supporting. You went back to work. You continued supporting your mom. What is the timeline there?
Yeah, so that was more or less 6 months. No, not more or less, exactly 6 months. I came back to the same company where I was with, and that was very close to where we lived. We lived in the north of Israel, near Nazareth or Haifa. So I came back to the same company. My mom was still alive. During the 5 years more or less that we lived in Israel, she had up and downs. At some point, so everything started going better when we arrived. Eventually, it didn't anymore. Luckily enough, we still had the chance to redo the biopsy of the tumor that she had. So they figured out that the treatment that she was receiving, even from Argentina, was wrong, and that it was not for the type of cancer that she had. So when they figured that out, they changed completely the kind of the protocol and the treatments, and things started to go better again. But at that point, it was kind of too late. So I came back. I released from the army, came back to work, continued. The four of us, so my brother, my dad, my mom, and I were living there. My sister was doing the PhD in Germany, so she was coming from Germany to Israel periodically, but she was not living with us there. My other brother from Argentina, that's another long story. We didn't know each other yet. Okay. We didn't know that, or at least I didn't know that he existed. He did know. This will end up like these South American telenovelas, But so that was more or less the setup. So we all supported economically. We were living the four of us together. We were just all of our incomes were family incomes, and that's it. So I came back with a better role that I had in before in the same company. Now I didn't do night shifts, for example, anymore. So I had like office hours, regular office hours during the day. And I had like special permissions to just work in a different shift if I need to take my mom to the doctor, for example. So I came back to be kind of the one leading helping her with the treatments, going up, down, translations here, there. That was actually very tough. Even when we were still in Argentina, I had like a very active role in all the process. And it started when I was maybe 17 or 18 in the worst case. So I was very young, and that was tough to just take that responsibility on me. Wasn't easy at all, and that continued there in Israel after the army. And then I also started going to the reserve. So every year after that, for a month, it was usually not month in a row, but like 2 weeks, and then eventually during the year another 2 weeks. That was easier because then it was that you just go for a couple of weeks. I will most likely come back in the middle. It was not that bad. But then it was also the after maybe the first year and a half after the army, it was when the situation of my mom started to go down again. And that already was inevitable. I mean, that after that she passed away. And when she passed away, I decided that I don't want to live in Israel anymore. Not only because of the army, also because I didn't completely feel fit there. So I had good friends. My life was good. I had a good job. I had a partner. I was with my family. So I was not suffering. but I was not also having fun. I didn't feel that I am in the environment that best for me, right? I then decided to move away from Israel, and my sister was living in Barcelona. And I said, why not Barcelona? And I came to Spain.
Barcelona, you mentioned that there was in the post-army time, and I guess now that I'm putting the timeline, the post-army is close relatively to your mom passing away.
Yeah.
Uh, you mentioned about some support that you needed. Um, I really would like to hear how did you experience the post-army? Like, because we discussed about PTSD, which is a very normal and expected thing to happen, but also your mom in the same time. Uh, that sounds very tough. Yeah. I think I would disassociate entirely from the situation. I don't know. How did you experience all that?
So usually when you have a situation like that you're suffering any type of post-traumatic stress, it's usually not because of one thing, right?
Mm.
So it's a sequence of things that were happening to you for rather a long time. How much is long depends probably on everyone's resilience, okay? Or not even resilience, about the situation where you are. Sometimes you are not resilient, but the situation doesn't allow you to choose, right? And that was probably my case. Let's kind of go back when I was 15, 16, and we moved to a different city. The family splitted. I was with my mom alone. My dad was traveling. My brothers were in a different city. And I was just very young. So instead of just living my young full, I was just now having family responsibilities. Then I started working very early. And then my mom was sick and she was not getting better. We decided to go to Israel. That was already something big. Then I go to the army. Eventually, during this time, my life was in danger. Then I go out and my mom continues being sick. She goes worse. She passed away. I moved to a different country again with where my sister was living. And after couple of years, or maybe a bit more than a couple, she also gets the diagnosis that she has cancer.
Fuck.
My brain kind of was not able to absorb any big event anymore. And then I decided to go to therapy, to find a psychologist, to start getting some help, because I didn't feel able anymore to handle this sequence of situations so stressful, so big, for 18 years almost, or 15 years, because when my sister got diagnosed, I was already 31, maybe 30. Okay. And this is when I started therapy and talking with there are other things that happen during, which I call smaller events, that are not small at all, probably for other persons. That when I started going back in time in history with my therapist, and this is when she said that this is all the symptoms like a PTSD, because your brain is just expecting the next big thing to happen. So you don't relax anymore. You just don't breathe anymore. You just don't act normally anymore. You're just waiting for the next big thing to happen. And this is when you need to break something in your mind and realize.
How was that manifesting?
I was suddenly not able to even manage a very regular stressful moment, for example. I was very nervous. It's easier to explain this in Spanish, by the way. Even, for example, with my partner, there was not any relaxed discussion. I was jumping very, very. I am not a violent person at all, so it's not in that direction completely. But it was not easy to talk with me or to have different opinions with me. And I was actually stressed, so I couldn't sleep well. I was not able to fall asleep. So I actually was falling asleep at 3, 4 a.m. just because it happened at the point where physically I was not able to stay awake anymore. Right. And also my rest was not good. I was alert all the time. And I then I realized I was in general not having fun from anything. even if I was doing something fun, like going out or going to a party or hanging out with friends, I was worried. I was just thinking about what can happen or what happened already. And of course, so there were two things that probably make the biggest change to be able to absorb that. One is knowing my partner, so she's really the other half of me, as many people say. And then the therapy. The therapy was the kind of the professional part that gives you the tools for you to start managing the situation, because it's not something that you can just fix. It's not a broken bone that after some time it will be fine. No, it's something that it's there and it will be there forever. You just need to handle it and understand that it doesn't need to be that way. That not necessarily something big will happen. And if it happens, bad luck. It's like when you play poker, you draw the cards and you need to learn how to play your hand with the cards that you have. You don't choose the cards. I mean,
You're talking, and every 5 seconds I have a question, but I recognize that I cannot ask everything. We would need to record for 6 hours. I'm wondering, retrospectively, pop psychology says that you come through some difficult situations and you become stronger. Personally, I think that's bullshit. When I went through some very difficult situations, by far not as difficult as the ones you describe, I just feel that I have remnants of shit in my brain and that I would be in a way better situation if I wouldn't pass that. So I'm actually wondering, the now, Martin, do you see any benefit, something good on you now because of what you passed for quite a few years?
yes. So there is, of course. So every of these moments in my life, they teach you something. So you learn something. You know yourself in a situation where you weren't before, and now you know yourself better. And the problem is that in our society, we don't take the emotional intelligence as something that we also need to grow. And we just do it based on experiences. You can be more or less lucky in your life and have best or worst experiences to learn from. But in my opinion, as I said, it should be possible to learn how to be emotionally intelligent without the need of going through all these things. So I didn't choose any of these things to happen to me. If I would, of course, I would choose none of them to happen, even if it means that now I would be an emotionally dumb person, because experiencing all these things is not nice. But after that, and especially after therapy, I wanted to prepare myself better emotionally for life. I don't know what can happen. I learned that you can do it without the need of going through all this. So I am different because of everything that happened. Yes, of course. Times that I am in a difficult situation or I see someone in a difficult situation, I am able to put that in perspective. And many times at work, we work for the same company, and we work for a type of software that it's used for other companies. So we are not saving lives, for example, at least not directly, right? Someone can use what we do to create something that can save lives. Okay, but we are not doing that directly. And this is something that I always tell also to my team, just put perspective. We are not saving lives. And this is what I learn. Whenever I have a situation, I have a problem or something that I need to manage, I have the chance now, because of all these things, to put this in perspective and say how really hard it is, how urgent it can be. What happens if I fail? Is it so critical? Because that also releases a lot of your own pressure, especially if you're a control freak and competitive with yourself person as I am. So we should be able to learn how to be more emotionally intelligent without the need of going through all this. But if you happen to go through, of course, it gives you some learnings.
From my external perspective, and of course, I don't know what is going through your mind. Between the first times that we talked, I felt like you're a calm, a wise person, So knowing now what you went through, I kind of I can understand a little bit how the person that I see in front of me was formed. I have deep admiration for all the things you shared, and I'm not psyching you up, but and I think you should have as well, like supporting your family while going through these situations. Yeah, I mean that's why we're here, not to sell software to businesses. That's what stays. That's your badge of honor. Anyway, let's talk work a little bit. So you go back to your previous job in Israel. Can you remind me what was your title there? Sysadmin, you said.
That job, it was later my first job here in Spain. No, it was more related to coding and being a
Okay.
developer.
Okay, so you're into a pure development role, and then you move to Spain, and you move to a sysadmin role, right?
Yeah, support slash sysadmin.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit? Was there any transition there?
When I decided to move to Spain, I started already connecting with companies. LinkedIn was still not a thing at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not as easy to find companies and to send resumes. And I started already from there to do phone interviews. And my only expectation was to try to find something IT related because that was my. So I arrived to Barcelona in maybe June, July. I don't remember exactly. Mid of summer, like now, it's very hard to find companies to do interviews because many people is on vacation. So this is a period that things cool down a bit, and you need to wait maybe to September, October to actually move. And that was more or less the case. So I arrived during the first 2 months. It was harder to have interviews, but then eventually mid-October I started working. And I was saying that I probably had a bit of luck because I managed to connect with people and so on. But then it's something that I learned later, right? That this is a condition that helps a lot. I am male, white, and heterosexual. So that already removes a lot of barrier without even being knowledgeable about that. So it was not that I was just lucky. Also, I am a privilege because I was born with these conditions that I didn't choose, but are there. So I also can remove them from me. But I didn't have it so hard to find a job, a good quality job. And it was this sysadmin slash support person in a very interesting company. I have to confess, I had 7 years of a lot of fun there. So it didn't took me a lot of time. Then that allowed me. So lived with my sister during these few months, but very quickly I was able to just go and rent something for myself. Um, we still have time, so I can tell you a bit more of that.
No,
Uh,
please.
I went to share apartment with someone that was doing the PhD with my sister. My sister was a marine biologist, and we started sharing apartment, and now we're married.
Oh,
16 years later, we are still together.
how like I have lived abroad, and girls wouldn't share an apartment with a guy.
We knew each other, so because she
Ah, okay.
was doing the PhD with my sister, and during these 2 months of summer until I actually got my interviews, I spent most of the day with them. They actually had, as part of work, they were going almost every day to the sea to capture jellyfishes and to take water samples. And it was working on the beach or in ships and going out. So it was very fun. And I actually joined them, helping them as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure, sure.
yeah, sure. So we knew each other.
You were interested in jellyfish.
Yes, of course, of course.
Was there a flirt before you actually moved in together?
Sorry, it was?
Was there a flirt before you moved in together, or it just happened after?
No, no, no. There was not a plan. When I got the job, more or less in the same time, she was living with another student that left, so she had space in the
Mm,
flat. And because we already knew each other, and we had very good vibes because we were, as I was saying, we were sharing a lot of time during the day, so we were good friends.
mm-hmm.
there was already a lot of confidence, and she told me, hey, there is now a place in my another room that will be free in my apartment now that if you want to leave your sister's house, I would prefer you instead of just someone random that I don't know. And yeah, and here we are.
Okay, there are a lot of things now happening. You are in Spain, you move out to a new apartment where you meet your, at the moment, wife. You work as a sysadmin at a cool company. You told me for how long have you worked at that
7 years.
company? 7 years. Okay. In between that, you have a story, an incident with your sister. I don't know if you feel comfortable to tell me about that, but I really just want to understand the timeline here. So, at the time that you moved out, was there already news?
No. I moved here, here to Spain, I mean. And so I don't remember exactly, to be honest, if it was 3 or 4 years actually after I arrived, or maybe 5, that my sister was diagnosed also with cancer.
Mhm. Okay. Um, I know how that happened, and you have hinted it already. How long did it take?
So, cancer is not like other things that you probably know exactly when they started, right? So let's say from
Yeah.
the time that she was diagnosed, like 9 years,
Oh, 9 years after.
she passed away.
Okay.
Yes. Since the diagnosis until my
Mhm.
sister passed away, there were 9 years, more or less.
Okay. Okay. So you are okay, you have the news, you are working for a company as a sysadmin. Like, do you have any impact at your work at this time? Because you said that you started therapy. Do you see anything happening at work? People understand that something's wrong with you.
I mean, the people at work that were near me, yes, of course. I am in general a very open person. I don't mind talking about what happens to me. So I don't know, I don't have any problem with that. So people from my team, my manager, others that are not in my team, but people that I usually talk with, they all knew about the situation or the things that were happening. And I guess that all of them or most of them knew that I was going to therapy. And yeah, I can't remember to tell you exactly who, when, and which, but
Mhm.
I am as I am. Most of them knew.
Okay. So at some point, and I remember from our previous conversation, uh, there is a moment that you start exploring something more towards the business side, the product side. And I think that transition happened while you were working at this company, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more at first? How did that start? You told me before the interview that you started getting exposed to different things.
Mhm.
So how did that work? And did you try it out or did it just happen?
It was a kind of half just happened, half because I was ready to take more responsibilities. So I was 7 years in this company. When I joined, the company was around 100 people. And after 2 or 3 years, business didn't go as good as it should, and there were a lot of lays off, other people leaving, and I remained all the time there, and I knew very well the platform, the product. So I started doing other things, not just the support or system administration work. So I did also some stuff for operations. I was already leading the support team, and then I took over operations as a whole. And then the person who was doing product management left, and again I knew customers because I was in support as well. I was doing also support. I knew the product because I was in the platform, so I started also taking over some of these responsibilities. And then the person who was also dealing with engineering left, and I was also helping there. So I kind of get, like, as a title, I even got to have the kind of the CTO role of the company.
Mhm.
But the important thing is that I was exposed, and I had the opportunity to test or see or try different roles in the IT landscape. And that's when I figured out that the product management work is the one that I mostly liked or enjoyed or was more interesting to me.
You say something here that is an important lesson for people that are trying to make a transition either within a company or out of a company. and this is that you already got involved into things. So from a confidence standpoint, that plays out importantly because you feel familiar with a change, but also from a I don't want to call it political. From an impression standpoint, it's easier for a company to actually be like, oh, okay, so you are kind of already doing that. Let's just stick a title to this. So could you tell me a little bit more, like, did the company make it official? Did they formalize that you are now called a CTO or a product manager?
Yeah, they did. So they were also very supportive. Usually it went like this. Someone was doing a job and he's not there anymore, either because he left or was laid off. And this is probably what is part of my personality. I am fine taking new responsibilities. I don't, I'm not afraid of starting doing something that I am not so experienced about. I trust that I can learn almost everything. So I was there and said, hey, I can help. I know more or less stuff about this, so let me try and I can give a hand. And because I was doing it well, then the managers or the leadership was fine giving me then officially that responsibility. And this is more or less because I never had this very official or structured learning period. So I never went through all the university or had any MBA so I am pretty much DIY professional, right? So I had some interest. I went ahead, learned it, and then tried to find the opportunity to apply that knowledge. And so whenever I am in a company, I like to learn more, like beyond what are my responsibilities, not because just to be ready for taking more, just because I am also curious and want to understand better what I'm doing. So that helped. And whenever the opportunities were there, I was already better prepared to take that responsibility. And then I proved to do it well. And then it becomes official and it's recognized.
Okay. So you have a good memories from that company.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have good memories from all the jobs I had so far.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. You became already a product manager within the company that you were, and then at some point you move to. I think we can name the company, so there's
Oh,
nothing wrong
yeah.
with it. You moved to New Relic.
No, before New Relic, so
Ah,
I was in this company for 7 years.
mm-hmm,
Within other jobs, I did product management. I decided that this is what I want.
mm-hmm,
And after 7 years and well, some management changes and I was
mm-hmm.
not that comfortable anymore, I decided to move on. And I said, now I will just try to find an opportunity where I can focus on product management. So I
Mm-hmm.
was looking for a entry level, more or less, product manager role. And I found one in a company called Rakuten TV.
Rakuten. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Sorry, what you say is interesting because you already had quite a few years of experience, but you searched for a junior role somewhere else.
Yeah, not necessarily. So I am also a very conscious person about the how competitive the market is because I don't have any diploma. I don't have the actual university degree or anything. I know that at least until I get the experience, it's harder for me to be considered. And so I was fine just trying to find something smaller. Also because I wanted to learn also, and I did the product management job without a formal education. So I just did it. And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be able to start from a place where I can solidify the knowledge and I can get best practices and learn from someone. Usually when you join a company as a senior professional, it's more expected that you coach others instead of be coached. And I still consider that I needed that. So I was not looking for maybe a junior exactly, but something that was not senior
Mm-hmm.
to still be able to kind of learn better the profession.
I think the way you did it is almost like a recipe for people that want to transition to a role. Like you got involved into things within the organization that you were. They had nothing to lose to actually have you helping. Then you formalized the role, and then you capitalized that in another company, starting as junior. I'm pretty sure even before you tell me that you progressed quite quickly there, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, because you have both the maturity of a senior professional, you had some knowledge, so it should have been relatively easy for you to catch up and be senior, right? What
Yeah.
happened?
No, it's true. So I already had a lot of background and experience, so it wasn't that hard for me. So I got more professional independence and trust and confidence from my leadership very quickly. Um, and I managed something rather quite technical part of the product, which was complex. So you actually need someone that knows about product management, but also has the technical background as well, let's say, right? And that was more or less the case in the next jobs, because there was always something different that I had to learn more about. From there, I went to New Relic, and in New Relic, it was also product management, but I had to learn more about observability and even more technical stuff as I was used to do. And then when I moved from New Relic to IBM to Instana, I was already a senior PM and on the same problem space like Kubernetes as I was doing in New Relic, but still I very quickly got the chance to lead another project like logging. So I had to learn about what log means for observability and all the background about logs. And a few months after that, I had the chance to start leading a team. So that was again after a few years leading a team again in a different context, now in a multinational as huge as IBM can be. So in every one, there was a challenge in front of me, and that's actually what I like. That's actually what I'm looking for. I'm kind of always trying to think about the next challenge that I can take.
Okay. In Rakuten, I remember from a previous conversation we had that you were mostly working to multimedia related stuff, right? I'm interested to hear about that, but also about the difference between that and then observability.
So my job before Rakuten and Rakuten were similar because more or less they were both about multimedia content in the Flumotion. That was the one before Rakuten. It was a streaming software and platform. So it's a lot about encoding video and audio, transmitting that over the internet, player, blah blah blah. In Rakuten, it's actually the one segment of all this story, right? So it's focusing on the actual watching experience, the catalog of content that you can browse. That was actually my problem space, was to handle the catalog of movies and TV shows and how to share it with applications and partners and the B2B side of the company, and then the technology stack that it's supporting the catalog and search, because the search is part of it. So I also capitalized a lot of the knowledge that I had about multimedia for this. So then when I moved from Rakuten to New Relic, it also supposed kind of a start from scratch. So I already knew the product management role, but now the problem space was completely different. Multimedia is just one use case, right? So you create an observability tool that can be used by multimedia companies or by whatever other thing. So you actually need to focus more on the underlying technology stack without so much looking into the use case. That's not true anymore. So now it's different. Now we in observability also need to focus on the use cases, but at that point was more about the just observing or monitoring technology. So that was again a bit difficult. So I had to learn again what actually observability is. I was probably used to more traditional ways of doing monitoring and less modern observability practices. So I had to catch up. I had to learn about a lot of technologies that I didn't know at all. Flumotion, or even, well, Rakuten was a bit more cloud native than Flumotion, but I was not dealing too much with that. So I didn't know a lot of the modern technologies like Kubernetes containers. And so there was a lot of learning. But again, this is what I look for. So as I was saying before, that I'm now looking into, for example, quantum. I'm fine learning and getting into a new program space. I trust that I can catch up quickly.
A lot of people these days, and I wouldn't exclude myself from that. While I super much enjoy what I'm doing it for quite some time. So a lot of people are searching outside of their jobs for, let's say, other activities that complement them emotionally. They give them the emotional hit. Across this time, while you are also a very passionate person about what you do, and I can understand from the way that you are talking that you like it. Are there things that you're doing outside of work that are necessary to keep your sanity?
Yeah, yeah, of course there is. So while I am very passionate about my work, I really like my job, the role and the challenge. But yeah, it's important to have stuff outside that help you disconnect, especially. Again, probably the most important thing for me is my family. I mean, our home with my partner and I is our safe space, and it's our work. So we when we are together and when we are not working and spending time together, we kind of already disconnect from the work. We are not very social people, and also luckily enough we share some hobbies. We both like to play video games a lot, so we usually every week, a few days per week, we just spend some time playing video games. We both like to read. We both like to spend time with our dog and cat, so they're part of the families. If we had kids, for example, we would be spending time with them, doing something together, playing or whatever. We don't like sports, but we train very seriously. 3 times per week, we work out. We also go together. And within the same people in the gym, we have like a group of friends where we also from time to time hang out. So in general, all the rest of my hobbies or activities are also kind of intellectual. It's either reading or learning something. And I say even intellectual if it's playing video games and watching movies because it's art and you also kind of learn something and can or their feelings, and it's not just uh, um, like void stuff. Then I also have friends from Argentina, so I and here that we don't live close enough anymore to see each other oftenly, but we talk anytime we want. And I think that's it. I Those are more or less my outside work activities.
During all these years, did you ever have or explored or exploring something that, at some point you might have been like, actually that could become a job at some point, or that could produce revenue for me, or if I would at some point leave tech entirely, that's something I could do. I'm fishing here, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, having an animal shelter. Not because I would probably have benefit from it, money. At least benefit, of course, there will be for the lives of the animals that I could potentially help. So there are many other things that I still want to do and I didn't do yet outside work. You don't see it now, but I have a guitar somewhere here that it's been in this room for 5 years and I still didn't play it. So I want to learn how to play guitar. Not from a money perspective, no. Although there are other things that I like a lot, like gardening. I love gardening. I love cooking. And we used to cook a lot together, and I also like to do it myself. So I could probably live out of. I could work in a restaurant, or I could have a restaurant. I could probably do it in a
So
decent way.
you're in that level that you could
Yeah,
work at a restaurant.
sorry because of saying that myself, but yes,
Okay.
yes,
What are you? Do you have a specific like preference?
yes, pasta related,
Pasta.
like Italian food in general.
Okay,
Like
so you're
it's
good at cooking Italian.
yeah, and barbecues. Everything related to that involves fire and coal. Yeah, I also like it, and it's very tasty. Rices, paella style. I don't want to say paella because that's a very sensitive topic here in Spain. The paella is only happening in Valencia with Valencian water and by Valencian people, which I respect. So I do rice with things, but yeah, I like to cook a lot. So I could live because I think that there would be enough good quality to people to pay for it, cooking for others. And then, yeah, because other things I like to do, but not as a professional thing, like gardening or things. I just like to do it for home, but I wouldn't live out of that.
You mentioned quantum
Yeah.
quantum computing, and I would like to talk a little bit about what future brings. I must admit that I've tried to read about quantum computing, and it reminded me the first time that I started reading about black holes.
Yeah.
I really wanted to persevere because obviously there was something interesting there. It's just that my brain couldn't follow up. So could you tell me a little bit more about, at first, what is it in very simple words? Like imagine you're talking to my mom.
Okay.
She's 60. Yeah, no, she will kill me if I call her 60 because she's 59. But anyway, she won't see that ever. So very simple explanation, but also, yeah, what future brings for you, or what would you like to have as a next step?
Okay. So I don't take me as a quantum professional at all, because what I know is just maybe a 0.001% of, so I am just scratching the surface of what quantum is. But in a nutshell, as I understand it, we are very used to have binary based hardware, right? Because at the end, this comes down to the hardware. Our hardware today is, the nature is electric and magnetic, and it can only store the minimum amount of data that you can store. It's 1 bit, right? That can be either a 0 or a 1. So for each cell of information, you can only store one of the two. That's why it's a binary system, right? Quantum allows that for each uh, individual space of memory, you can store a number that goes from 0 to 1. Okay. So the value of this memory cell or slot is not just on or off, meaning 1 or 0. It's represented in a surface, like in a sphere, and the value can be something in here. But given the nature of quantum physics, it can be more than one, right? Or until the moment that you measure it, you don't really know what the value can be. It's not as easy as saying it's on or off. Now, why is that important? Because of the nature of quantum systems, it can calculate different outcomes in parallel for the same set of data. Okay, so it can evaluate different potential scenarios at the same time. But that's just, okay, that's in a nutshell, kind of. At the end, every technological advance that we do in our humanity, what it unlocks is new use cases that can be done. So it's just good for some type of use cases that we were not able to solve with traditional computing, or not even with GPUs. But as you can see, every use case has a hardware. And AI and all the machine learning algorithms and all these, they run better in GPUs because they are different. Anything else runs on regular CPUs, and there are specific use cases that can only be solved in a reasonable amount of time using quantum mechanics.
You told me that you involve somehow, without, of course, over involving yet. But what do you want to get involved further into that field?
Yeah, I would love to. I think it's very interesting. It's also potentially something that can help me stay at IBM for long. I am very happy in my job and in the company. So I think it's an opportunity to find some area of interest for the future. And yes, I would love to be more involved. I don't pretend to become a quantum specialist or any mean. I still want to probably be in the space of software observability, maybe, or kind of related, but where the problem space is related to quantum devices.
To close that, I would like to communicate a couple of typical, usual challenges that tech professionals, digital professionals are facing these days. Of course, not all of them, but their days are quite odd professionally for lots of people. And I'd like to get your view on what would you advise. Maybe you don't have an idea of what they should do, but I would love to hear your perspective. What I see quite frequently these days is people working within companies, silent quitting, overworking, not knowing how to progress themselves within an organization, and then finding themselves burned out. Let's start from that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that a colleague comes and tells you, Martin, I want to become a manager, or I want to get a promotion, or I want to achieve that. And I'm working like a dog, but I'm not getting what I want. What would you advise that person?
So the first advice is to not work like a dog. I know it's easy to say it now that I have already a long track record of experience, and when you're young and you're in your probably first jobs, or you're not that in that level of seniority, it's harder because you probably just need to disagree and commit and embrace whatever is the need. And if the it's a time to crunch, you probably just have to do it. And you still don't have the confidence. You didn't build that confidence yet to just say, no, okay, this is my limit. Today I have a life after work and I want to do it. So I would really like to be in a world where we are just not asked to do it. But as much as you can, taking into account your situation, how much free you are of being a bit rebel and saying no, and know that could have potentially implications, and then you can be out of job and there is a risk. Not everyone has the luxury of being able to put himself in that situation, but as much as possible, try to find the time to disconnect, to have a reasonable work-life balance. So working harder doesn't mean that you're going to achieve what you need. So you actually, the important thing is that you need to have a goal. So what is your goal and what I need to do to get there? In most of the cases, it probably won't be just work hard. It's probably just try to find what are the things that you can do that will lead to some benefit for you, for your goal. For example, when I was in that company for 7 years and there was someone being either laid off or resigning, and I felt that I can help, I wasn't going to say, hey, I want this job. No, I say, hey, I can help. And then I prove myself that I can do it. And then that make it very natural that whenever this position needs to be filled, that you are already involved. So in my case, this kind of silently being in the middle, it's overworking, yes, because I had to help. Help means on top of your already thing, but it's not just working more hours just because. It was overworking a bit, but with a specific goal. So as long as you do it with an idea in mind, I'm doing this and I will spend 2 hours more this week at work because then I can learn something, I can help there, and whenever the need is, I will already be prepared, so I can be a very good potential candidate to now formally take that role. So for me that worked. It's hard for me to say I will give advice because it's hard to apply the same. It's not a magic recipe, right? But at least from my experience, this is what worked for me. Being humble. For me, it's crucial. I am a very humble person, and being humble, so understanding that you always need to learn something new, it's important because then that makes it easier to say, let me first help here. Let me see if I am good at it, if I can actually provide some value. So being humble, don't hesitate to get into things that you don't know. You can learn. Everyone can learn everything. It's more about not having the resources or the situation rather than the mental skills. Everyone can learn everything from a physical perspective. Then, unfortunately, many people are just not in a situation that they can afford learning, right?
You're touching a very good advice here, and I read a framing somewhere that I liked, and that was optimize for the goal that you are trying to reach. And lots of people, and I must say, I have been for many years in that same mindset. They think that if you work hard, someone will appreciate it and will be like, Martin works very hard. We need to reward him. And I find that mindset, again, I'm not talking from a pedestal here. I have been in that mindset and I frequently find myself in that mindset. A little bit immature.
Mhm.
It resembles a little bit a parental situation. But as you said, no one will reward you just because you're working hard, but because you're working smart towards the right direction. So yeah, what I keep from what you said have a goal and intentionally do the things that bring you closer to that goal. And if that means overworking for the sake of proving yourself for something or monetizing it somehow or exchanging it for a title, then fair enough.
Yeah.
Otherwise, There's no point on screwing your work-life balance, because at least in my experience, that actually might backfire as well. You it might backfire on your relationships within this professional environment, because overworked people are agitated. They're on the edge, and no one likes someone that is on the edge, even if they are valuable and they produce a lot of work hours.
Yeah.
Does that touch any memory? Does that bring up any memory from the past for you? Like,
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, I always overwork just because of thinking that staying every day 12 hours will say, oh, my managers see that I work a lot of time. But then if they ask me what thing did you achieve, and probably I don't have so meaningful things to say, it's probably talking about a low performing person, because I just work more time and I get not so many things done. At the end, in a capitalist world, we are measured by the value that we provide to the company. And so you need to find that intersection where there is a potential opportunity in the future. So, and this is your goal. So, as you were saying, you overwork for something that will give you a benefit, because you can either go, I don't know, change something in your career because you like that, or just because it's the next opportunity for you to progress. But it, of course, needs to be something that helps the company to make more money, because that's why they exist. And then the other thing that we didn't talk about, and I think it's important, is that growing not necessarily mean getting to the next level in the hierarchy chain. And growing is not necessarily a mandate.
mhm.
It's okay if you just love what you do, you just want to be better on what you do, but you just don't want to go to the next level. You don't want to be a manager. You don't want to be making big decisions because you like to do the job.
You might regret it, actually. I have done that in the past. I moved from a role where I was doing the work to a role that other people had mostly to do the execution, and I was managing, and I was begging to go back to a silo, to my own little silo where I didn't have so many meetings. I didn't have to achieve other people to be effective. Actually, that might be more difficult and less enjoyable. But you kind of build a myth in your brain about management and hierarchy and all that.
Yeah, it's not everyone needs to have the same goals and objectives, and
Mm.
it's fine if your goal is to just excel the role that you have, and you're happy doing that, and you're happy with the level of challenge, and you're happy with the people you're working with. It's all good. So we many times put ourselves in the pressure of going to the next level, and that being a manager is the best. So it's the only thing that means that you are doing a good job, or that you are actually making progress. That's not true. It's just some people like it and some people don't. We are just
Martin,
judged.
another thing that is extremely prominent is politics. So a lot of people complain that I can't progress because I don't know how to manage politics. That is ultra prominent to roles that have a cross-functional function, where you basically have to influence and lead through influence, but you don't have a direct authority towards teams. I think we are both quite familiar with concepts like that through product management itself, but also through a corporate enterprise organization like IBM, that of course it has that as well, like every organization of that size. But what would you advise to someone that feels like they don't know how to manage that aspect?
Okay, so everyone can have natural skills that will make it easier to deal with some part of their job, right? So, for example, if you're an extrovert person, and you are used to understanding people thinking and reading it between lines, you will probably naturally have it easier to navigate the political game. If you're not, it doesn't mean that you just don't do it, but just what I'm trying to say is that learning how to navigate the political game in especially big corporates is it's something that you can learn the same way that you can now learn about quantum physics. Okay, so it's something that either you can read a bit about, or you just start by experiencing. The challenge of doing it directly as an experience is that depending on your environment, you might be more or less lucky that if you're with toxic person, then you will not really learn how to do it. But if you're lucky and you have a good environment and a healthy environment, then you will eventually be good at it, at managing. At the end, managing politics means that you need to understand that as you go up in the hierarchy chain, there are less people and less opportunities, so they shrink. And naturally, the being competitive is needed, right? So eventually, there is going to be less and less and less opportunities for you to go up and grow, and you will be competing with others, colleagues, most likely colleagues, people that you work together maybe a few months, years, or days before, and you need to learn how to do it effectively again because we want to do it. So that's a goal. We want to do it without harming anyone and still being a good colleague. So more or less achieving the three of these is when you kind of navigate better the political problems. And then it's just a skill, something that you can acquire. Just reading and I read a lot about like neuro NLP. No, sorry,
NLP.
NLP because it's like playing poker, right? So you have your cards, you see the other ones with their cards, and when you get political is when you just don't want to. You're always keeping your cards, because you do the best move in the next turn. And so a lot about the things that people doesn't really expose. Communication skills, of course, are crucial as well. And also know that it will probably be a bit nasty.
You know what? When I started working for IBM, before joining, coming from startups mainly, I thought that I will not survive. I thought that I will join an environment full of suits and ties, metaphorically speaking, full of monsters of politics. And, I realized that startups can be way worse. And I really want to stretch that for the people that might see these videos, that in a corporate environment, yes, you have to deal with people that might be highly competitive, that they might have high emotional intelligence. They might know how to navigate within such environments, how to create win-win situations for them and people that sit above them so that they unlock opportunities better and easier compared to someone else that works hard but doesn't have the skills. But in organizations like that, you are not getting fired because someone mildly dislike you this month.
Mm-hmm.
While I have experienced that in such companies, in most cases, okay, because that depends on the country that you are working, of course, you are getting fired with cause. And the cause needs to be low performance, like a justif or a number that underperformed. In a startup, you might be fired, you might lose your job, or you might be in a insecurity, professional insecurity, just because there is an emotional founder that had a few bad VC meetings this month and got into panic and thinks that they have to fire people or actually has to fire people to survive. And they will start from the luxury hires, which typically are the product managers, the product marketers. They can't fire the engineers. They can't fire the sellers. So, the reason I'm saying that is because also within these corporates, a lot of people build a myth about startups and they're like, oh, I will go to startups because I can have an impact and because it's fun and because no. It's not as fun as you think.
It's not.
Unless you enjoy always every day working for your survival, especially these days. So being in a safe environment from a professional standpoint and also being able to practice these skills of, I don't want to call them politics, I want to call them synergies, because it's all about finding, adjusting and aligning your agenda with other people's agenda so that other people higher than you have the incentive to progress you because it progresses them. That's how I see it. And I think there couldn't be a better environment than corporate to actually practice these skills that are super important to progress in the professional field. I know rant over here. I'm ending with that rant, but how do you feel about that?
No, I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree. Honestly, I also didn't know exactly how my experience would be at IBM with all this, but I am actually enjoying. Especially probably it's something that when you grow and you get older, let's say, not just because of maturity, but that you do prioritize the safety of your work, the possibility to stay in a place for longer time because you're already thinking about, even if it's early, because we still have like 20 plus years to work, you even more to work. But you kind of start envisioning that the moment will come and you will probably not work anymore, and where I want to be there, what is the time, how much I want to save for that. So these big corporates, as long as you do a good job, that's not enough. Okay. So we have layoffs every now and then in the big industries and big companies. But still, they give you this level of safety, while startups not. And then there are others that probably will like more the dynamics of a startup, which taking into account that it means probably working more hours, being hectic situations, and everything is crazy. You actually, as you were saying, you work for surviving one more month as a company until someone acquires you or invests in you, while in the big corporate, that just doesn't happen. If you do a good job, most likely you're going to be fine. You need to embrace that then there is this political game, and then that things are slower in many other cases, and you have less opportunities to make decisions. But then on the other hand, the layers work very well. And usually you as an individual contributor can focus much more on what is expected from you to do, because there are many layers in between you and the company execs to kind of filter out and deal with all this noise. So I totally agree with it.
Yeah, there are pros and cons. It really depends at which point of your life and professional life you are. So what are you willing to sacrifice to get the benefit? There is a beauty into working for startups. Always, I have experienced that beauty, and there's no myth in my brain about that. That's why I'm a little bit team corporate now. But yeah, of course there is a beauty there. More fast-paced environments, more decisions, more uh, more exciting stuff that you can decide to work on and test very quickly. Of course, it's different. It's different. Okay. Oh, actually, one last thing. I forgot to tell you about the other part of the coin, which is people that have been laid off. So here's the deal. There is a large chunk of people at the moment that are either laid off or will quickly leave their jobs because they want to totally abandon tech.
Mm-hmm.
I have flirted with that idea for some time, if I'm honest, because screens all the time in front of us. That's why I asked you before if you have any other activities outside of work that give you the emotional hit, because there are a lot of people that don't have activities outside of work that give them emotional hit. They have a very strong identity connected towards their job, so they try to find an emotional hit from doing something totally different, something with their hands, monetizing that, making it a job. Do you have any example or any friend or someone that has done any big transition from tech to something totally different? For example, I have a friend that who is a Greek guy, and you might have heard about Greece having good olives and good oil. I mean, we compete with Spain on that, although ours are better. Uh, and he wants to be a farmer. Do you have any stories like that?
Yeah, actually, a colleague, I worked with him at Flumotion, and then I worked with him again in New Relic. He eventually decided to be a farmer, and he
Okay.
went to just in the middle of the mountain with a bunch of goats to make goat cheese. And he did it for some years. Eventually, he came back to tech, I guess. And if he is listening to me, maybe we can have a coffee and you can tell me the rest of the story. But I guess that it was the fact that he came back to tech was not because he didn't like that life, but most likely because if you probably want to grow a family and have goals and that require money and some goods, then the IT market is still a very good place to be. And not because he didn't like the activities that he was doing. But I probably know not so many people that are running away from tech to other I don't say that it's not true because I do think it's true and I read about it a lot. It's just that in my surroundings, I can't find so many examples. I did see a lot of transitions, but kind of between tech, so just to different roles or different things, or people that were not doing tech jobs and now are doing tech jobs. And I saw personally less people running away from tech. From a work perspective, I do see a lot of need of doing something completely aside from screens and technology. And I feel it myself. So these workouts or going for a hike in the forest, it's something that I need to disconnect. For example, I don't have a personal computer. So my only computer is the one that I have from IBM. I can't use it for personal purposes, and I'm very happy with that. So after work, just close it, and if I need something, the phone today is more than enough. But yeah, it's I do see some cases like that. It's interesting. It's interesting to see that need of going so to the other extreme, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'll try to cover more stories about that when I find someone that did a successful transition. Until then, thank you very much. I think you understand that I very much enjoyed this conversation. It was extremely interesting for me. I extended my admiration already. I will not do it again, but you know my feelings. Thank you very much, and let's speak soon.
Thank you. I really appreciate your words. Thank you, Aggelos. I really enjoyed.